You're listening to the AFTERBUZZ TV Network, now the largest new media platform on the web, and your number one source for after-show entertainment.
Very good, Keith Johnson.
The AFTERBUZZ Studios in Los Angeles, California. Presented by Maria Menounos and streaming live thanks to Akamai Technologies. This is AFTERBUZZ TV's Homeland After Show. We'll break down tonight's episode and get you all the latest news and gossip. And now, another post-game wrap-up show for your favorite TV show. It's AFTERBUZZ TV's Homeland After Show.
Hello, everybody. Welcome to AFTERBUZZ TV's After Show for Homeland on Showtime. This is episode 9, season 3, One Last Time. I am your host, Lauren Leonelli, and here with me tonight we have...
Julia Cearley.
Julia!
Hi. And to my right here is the gorgeous Joe K. Braswell.
That's me. We're happy to be here.
So excited to be here.
You guys, it's a reunion. Joe and I did the Americans, and I almost said Homeland because we constantly referred to Homeland and how obsessed we were with the show, and now here we are. Watching the episode together. It's like a dream come true.
It is. We are guest hosting. Our other mate Nando asked us to come in, and as did Lauren, and here we are. We're filling in, and we love it because we love the show.
We're obsessed with the show.
Oh yeah.
Joe and I every Sunday are texting. We don't cover Homeland. Yeah. We cover other shows, but obsessed with this. Constantly texting about it every Sunday.
We talk about TV, so even when we're not here at AFTERBUZZ, we're talking about TV. And Homeland, you cannot stop talking about. I was just telling them to the last episode, which I missed the after show for, but I think I scratched the first layer of skin off my face when Carrie was walking through the parking lot, and Peter Quinn, who we will talk about a little more later, shot her. I'm just saying we can talk about general impressions of this episode. I thought it was really good. I'm so happy that Carrie and Brody finally got in the same room together.
Yeah. It was a long time coming.
A long time coming. There's a lot of tension there. I have one problem with this episode. There just wasn't enough Peter Quinn.
No, stop it. Enough. Peter Quinn's hot, I guess.
Look, the last episode, we got to see him in the towel in the shower. Wasn't that the last one, or was it the one before that?
Yes.
That was two ago. But I'm not counting.
I'm not going to say that I rewound it and then took pictures on my phone of but I might have.
Newsflash, Peter Quinn's hot, I guess.
Is he?
All right.
I guess he's
all right.
If you like that. Listen, this episode to me was, this is like top 3 Homeland episode of all time for Joe Braswell. Yeah, this was
why, Joe?
Cracker effing Jack episode.
Why? Why do you, I thought it was good, but why are you saying that?
Well, I think okay. Well, number one, I think that on the internet, I don't cover the show. I don't know
the
you guys,
intranet.
I know that you guys do a lot of talking, but there's been a lot of sort of complaints about this season, like nothing's happening,
moving too slow,
blah, blah, blah. And I feel like they've done a lot of building here. And there's an interview with Alex Ganzer, or one of the guys, saying that they've structured the season as like 3 acts, right? So the first 4 episodes have been 1 act.
Well, because that was when we saw that whole thing was a play, and Carrie and Saul were really in on it together. I screamed at the top of my lungs when that happened.
Episode 4 was a turn like, okay.
Act 1.
And then Act 2 was the thing. This is we find out, sort of that. The end of Act 2 was that we find out that there is a larger play and plan. In fact, that has to do with maybe getting Brody out or something else. This is the beginning. This is the first episode of Act 4, which is the last 4 episodes of the season.
3.
Act 3. Thank you.
We can count. We can count.
The first episode of Act 3, which is 4 episodes, I'm trying to say. And I really feel like that.
There's only 4 episodes? No, there's only 3 episodes left now.
Well, this was 1, and now there's 3 more.
Oh, that's
so this
it?
was,
Are you kidding me? It goes by so quickly.
No.
Zooming out, I feel like if you zoom out and look at this as a 13-hour, 12-hour movie, I feel like that there's a lot of story covered here, and I feel like those are a great thing.
Yeah.
But to answer your question, the acting in this episode was off the charts. I
thought you were going to say off the chain.
No, it was off the chain too. But it was off the charts. A lot of two-hander stuff here. A lot of just 2 people in a room talking. But I tell you what, Manny Patinkin, this was his Emmy episode for sure.
Love him.
Damian Lewis. I know we haven't seen a lot of Brody. He's been in 3 episodes. He's back.
How'd we like the Tom Walker scene? Woo! Tom Walker.
Brody went through some major
Brody's
stuff.
And we got a little Abu Nazir too. You know, they just had to shoot those scenes, so we got brought those people back.
I feel like I got 12 episodes of Brody in one episode here. Like he was,
he made up for some lost time from what we've missed from him this season.
And the journey, the story they cover, the journey he went from like, you know, addicted to heroin to the end where he's like leaving for an op in 1 hour.
Dude,
like that's a lot of story to cover. Same with Carrie, great episode, great acting. Her.
Oh yeah.
And people are hating on my girl Dana Morgan Taylor. Morgan Taylor did the damn thing.
That
was a great little scene.
This was her best performance.
I got
to date.
sick of watching her pull her sleeves down over her hands. Like that choice to me got a little old, but this here, I mean, look, I think that she's supposed to be that like, you know, angsty, annoying teenager, and I think she's doing it right. Like that's what she's supposed to be doing.
She was annoying,
and it annoys us all.
I think we're supposed to kind of hate her a little bit.
I think we are. I think you're right.
You want to grab her by the shoulders and shake her and be like, "What are you doing?"
Right.
But so I guess in that respect, she's actually a genius actress.
No, she's good.
Because I want to kill her.
Right, exactly. She's doing her job.
But tonight, I think she really brought it on home. She really sold it. That performance in that one scene was so powerful and just so well done. I was
just write it down.
Yeah.
That was my impersonation.
It was really good.
And the Emmy goes to Lauren Leonelli for her impersonation of Morgan Taylor.
That's right. What did you think? I mean, this is his top. What do you say? Top three?
Top three. Yeah.
What about you, Julie?
I'd put it up there. This episode was so jam-packed. I'm still like processing it and piecing it all together. But you're right, Joe. The acting was just like out of this world.
It is.
Every single performance was so spot on and so nuanced and
off the charts.
Just insane. I'm so impressed with these guys.
Yeah.
You guys
I agree.
win.
And
winners
all around. And shouts to Barbara Hall, who wrote this episode, who's a super gigantic veteran who's been. I mean, she goes back to moonlighting, folks.
Oh, jeez. Yeah.
But she's been around for a long time, and she also knows how to write an episode and knows how to like talk and do the story. And I think the writing was fantastic. Again, tons of story covered here.
Yes.
Like we've got. I mean, think of what happened here. Like we got Brody from heroin acted spec op guy. We got Carrie from being shot in the hospital to running her asset like she's a real CIA agent. We got Saul being Saul, the CIA agent that we know who he is.
And the whole Lockhart thing.
Lockhart, all that stuff. Not to mention the
Mira.
Last year we were so worried about Mr. Mumbai, the Mira's little F buddy.
Yeah.
And this year, and in one episode he's dispatched of. It's like, oh yeah, this guy's. We find out what's going on thanks to Virgil and Max. I love Virgil and Max.
And Virgil and Max always come in. They're like the little sneaky dudes that come in and like peel back a sheet, and you're like, oh, that's what was going on.
Yeah, it was so great. And then Senator Lockhart, we have him neutered instantly.
Dude, I was waiting for that.
Yeah, so that was great.
It was a little anticlimactic though, because I wanted Saul to punch him in the face.
Yeah, yes. I wanted that.
Yes.
But I know it's for the it's a longevity thing. It's not an instant gratification type thing, but still.
You always have to know that Saul has a major end game that is 10 steps ahead of all of us. When you want him to make like the most obvious decision, like, punch him in the face,
spit in his face and kick him in the nuts.
He did have that lovely line though when he said
he didn't want to embarrass his wife and he didn't want to ruin because that's Saul's.
But there's got to be more to it.
But you know what's interesting is let's talk about Saul. Let's talk about Saul. Saul, this season, we've been talking about on our show, feeling like he's having this like power struggle. Like he's in power right now after Estes is gone, and he's having a hard time pulling the trigger, if you will. Like in that op where he had to the Toto op.
Yes,
that one where he had to kill the 6 people, 10 man down or whatever it was called.
That was it.
The Toto op.
No, that was it.
The Toto op was the official CIA name of that operation. No, I'm kidding. 10 man down.
10 man down. Toto op.
Anyway, you know what I'm talking about, okay?
I was with you the whole time.
He could not.
I was with you.
Okay, seriously, I do pay attention. He could not pull the trigger on that. And then we're watching him at home have this power. He can't, pull the trigger with his wife either, if you will. And
so to speak.
Yeah, and now we're seeing him step back up.
Yeah.
But still in a way that's not that's a little bit understated and like in his own little Saul way. Like there's all these characters have Achilles heels, like we know what Carrie's is. Right. And Saul is, I think his Achilles heel is his job, and it's a constant struggle between his wife and his job. And it was interesting that in this episode we saw him put them as an equal. Yeah. In that scene when he said, first, I don't want to embarrass my wife, and second, it would ruin the agency.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like in seasons 1 and 2 we've seen Saul. I mean, I think the general impression of Saul is he's obviously a competent officer, like been through a lot. Yeah. But I felt like when we got introduced to Saul, he felt a bit broken. Like he's a bit broken. He came off just sort of a soft, sort of like, bearded, competent, but sort of broken man. Like, he's over, I just want to retire. Me and my wife want to get out of here.
Well, he also had, to interject for a second, he was directly compared to Estes, who was cold and emotionless. Right. And just like, this is the op, who cares, da da. And Saul, we got a lot of emotion from him, which is not normally what we would expect to see, or at least what this show is trying to give us the impression of, that these officers have, that they don't pay attention to their emotion. He and Carrie are the only ones that really do that.
Well, we were introduced to Saul as sort of her Carrie's mentor and confidant when she is the one who is broken and on the edge. Totally. So we were introduced to him as being sort of a sensitive character, a shoulder for her to cry on, in essence, but
because we had to
confidant.
Exactly, and we had one person that would fight for her always, and it was him.
And then even in this season, it's the two of them still, even though they're at odds a lot, especially in this season, as we've seen. Yeah. It's the two of them. They were the only two on this whole operation in the beginning.
Well, this is my point. The point that I'm getting to is that, like, in this season entirely, and especially in this episode and last few episodes, we get to see why Saul is Saul. You don't get to be the almost head of the CIA without being really good at what you're doing. Yeah. And so from the very beginning, when we see Operation Toto, we see the whole in that 10 Man Down episode or whatever that was. Like, we see him run that out. Like, oh, this guy. This entire season, we see Saul, like, he's pissed because the bombing happened. He's not answering to Estes anymore. It's like, I'm stepping up. This entire season he's been no bullshit Saul, but now he's had this elaborate plan, and he's like the secret plan that he's had to sort of put Javati back in play. He's doing this. He put Carrie in to get Javati, and now he's got Brody. He's got this elaborate chess piece plan, and now he's executing it. And I feel like Saul is like really evil mastermind. Not evil is not the right word, but he's
a mastermind. Yeah,
we see him doing this and working assets and doing the right thing, and still, he's very, very impressive as a CIA.
And operative. His history goes way back. So he is operating under favors and under things that have happened decades ago when he was overseas.
Well, with Javati, I mean, it's like
right
that
there. There it is.
What, 30-something years?
Exactly.
Right there? So I mean, I think that he, like I said, the impression that the show gives, at least, that Saul likes to operate a little differently than most CIA agents will. I think it's the same thing that makes Carrie a great agent, that also makes her a huge risk, is that tie and connection to her emotion and the instinct there. And like I said, it's what makes her brilliant and also what makes her a huge risk. And Saul, he is a little more level-headed than her, but still can tap into that emotion, and that's the only way they ever connect. Otherwise, they just wouldn't ever see eye to eye, because he's about to be like, fuck you to her. Yeah, for which he says all the time. I mean, he's like this close, but there's that one little connection that they have. They both have that undying love for their job.
Yeah. And each other. I mean,
and each other, of course,
and the greater good, which is the country.
And
exactly. Yeah. I just feel like that. I feel like that. At least me and on the internet, you hear this, but it's kind of like, how did Saul get this job? Saul is kind of a pussy, and Saul is this.
I don't think he is. I never thought of him.
I've never thought of him. This is sort of what I've been reading. I've been kind of half thinking, but this season, you're like, oh, this guy, I get it now. He's a badass.
He's quiet and he's understated, but he is brilliant.
I never thought of him as like a pussyfooting character ever. Right. I just thought that he just goes about things in a different way, that he flies under the radar, or he's always got a plan and he usually executes. I mean, he usually does. Sure. I feel like I trust him. Well, I think it's because of the writing and the way that they perceive him, but I feel like I trust him more than any other character in the whole show. Any of them.
I thought it was really cool that moment when he had to go to F. Murray Abraham. What's my man's name? Adal, and ask about when he had to sort of talk about what was going on with Mira and this guy. And it was really like when she says it's a guy who she's had a relationship and possibly still does. That was a relief for me to know that he still may know that there's something going on. I feel like there was a moment there where you felt like
he's not getting the wool pulled over his eyes.
He's blinded by love and he wants this thing so bad, but like he's got to know, but he doesn't know. And but he knew the whole time, which is kind of like that was kind of refreshing.
He just reacts differently than you would think. He's not going to do the conventional "I'm the mad husband." He's not going to run that off the same way another CIA agent would. It's like his wheels are turning way faster and dug down way deeper than anyone else. That's what I like about him.
Which is again also frustrating about him. The same way we wanted him to kick the senator in the nuts and punch him in the face. You wanted him to do the same thing to the boyfriend, to the guy she's having an affair with. But that's just how he works.
I don't think it's
processes
totally, and I don't think it's because he's a pussy. I think it's just his way of getting to the jugular in a different manner.
Sure, fair enough.
Because he always goes for it.
Well, wait, can we talk briefly about, like, we talked about Saul, but can we talk about Mandy Patinkin?
Yeah, love him.
What's wrong with this guy? Nothing, right?
God, do I love everything he touches.
I had my Mandy Patinkin beard.
Yes,
I had a giant I haven't seen it in a while, but I had a giant beard.
No way.
And I was calling myself the Black Mandy Patinkin.
I have to say, I've been a Mandy Patinkin. I'm a huge theater and musical theater geek, like nerd out.
Yeah.
Grew up in it. So I have known of him. I've had his CDs, like nerd. So I've loved him forever. And I just have to say, like, Mandy, you have had the most amazing career.
Mandy.
He has just chosen so wisely, and I mean every step he's taken from he was Chicago Hope, right?
Yep.
And Criminal Minds. I mean Princess Bride, and like
Princess Bride.
Every little thing he does, it's so incredible, and this is
brilliant.
just.
I think that
pinnacle of a career.
There's a reason why you believe every word coming out of his mouth is this brilliant man, because he himself has got to be a brilliant dude.
I actually went back. Again, I'm going to nerd out just for one more second. I went back because I've been so obsessed with the show Homeland.
Right.
And I just looked up some old clips of him on Broadway in these big musical productions like Sondheim, Sunday in the Park with George. And just watching him now, knowing him as Saul and knowing what he can do when you take away his incredible voice and incredible stage presence, even that was so subtle and nuanced and just brilliant. I'm like, I love you, Mandy. I love him. I may have shed a tear.
He is my. I have a soft spot in my heart.
And he's all around. I hope he gets nominated because this was a great episode. Anyway, I'm sorry.
I agree.
That's all the good shit we can do.
That was my nerd out.
Yes.
Nerd out over theater today.
Mandy. So Carrie. So we've been seeing a lot of interaction with he and Carrie, and of course she's going rogue and doing all her Carrie-isms as per the usual.
As she does.
Which is what makes the show good, and we have to have a little bit of it. They're trying to, like they said at the end of the episode, they got to learn to trust each other, or at least pretend like they do. And she has reasons not to trust him too.
Right.
Or to worry about it. At least just because he's put her, and people like to constantly remind this to Carrie, and when Lockhart came into her room, that these people, they're doing it to her.
Right.
So she trusts them, really. I mean, she's got to be thinking about that. I think she does in her heart of hearts trust them, or at least just knows that if she ends up getting hurt or killed, it's because she died in the line of duty and she doesn't care about that. But I do think that there's a little bit of that brewing in her mind, that all the things that she's gone through is because of, the people around her, the people in charge, people who call the shots. But she's willing to do it, though.
But don't they kind of have to lie to her because she's so quick to fly off the handle and think emotionally rather than logically? Yeah, like they have to protect themselves. And
everybody has
whatever the mission is.
Yeah, and I feel like everybody in the show has a secret.
I mean, look what she did when she got shot. She so deserved to be shot.
Yeah,
this was months and months and months of work and being undercover, and you're just gonna blow it all in this 1 second.
Totally,
because she
thinks Brody.
Yeah, it's all for Brody. That is her
and that's
big weakness,
huge weakness, and I feel feel like Saul knows that, and so he's going to use that. They're all playing each other with something. Yeah. He's got that Brody angle. It's like he wants to get her close, but not too close, because he knows she'll start doing shit like taking him to the hotel to see Dana. Oh my God, that scene made me so nervous.
It's crazy.
And, she'll start doing stuff like that. I wonder if Saul knows if she's pregnant.
I don't think anyone knows she's pregnant. I really don't.
They don't.
What, you don't think he could go talk to that doctor and be like, I need to know every single thing about what's happening right now?
He surely can. I mean, well, could he know? Sure. But I don't think he does. He could know. I don't think he does. I just, back to Carrie, I feel like that this is, very similar to Saul. I feel like that this is really, really great. First of all, another, fantastic acting job.
Oh my God, she's always good.
I mean, she's fantastic. I mean, I think that people were really upset, in the first act of this season, the first 4 episodes. They're like, Carrie's doing the crazy thing again. Blah 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 blah. I'm a little tired of that. Which was one thing, but I feel like this is the first time.
All worth the moment, though. When we found out.
Well, it was. We found all worth the moment, but I feel like now we have a situation where Carrie is competent. Carrie. We had the first season where she was competent, and then she was, sort of got a little crazy and off the meds. Season 2, she's on the meds, but then she's a little erratic. Now she opened season 3 with being completely off of her meds and crazy. But now she's settled down. And this is very competent.
I wonder what
Carrie.
Yeah, I wonder.
And it's good to see.
How is that happening though? Because she's not on her meds and she has a real disease that really has to be treated medically.
It does, but she did say that she has a handle on it and she has her own thing.
But
and
we don't see her doing any of that. So in my opinion, I'm wondering how she's maintaining this, because this, although we'll say, she got crazy or she got whatever, her disease is a real thing that is serious, and it can be completely and totally controlled or helped with medication most of the time, but we know she can't do that because she's pregnant. But I'm wondering how she's maintaining this level of competent Carrie, which is what we're seeing. How is she doing that?
Well, I mean, look, there's tons of cases of people who have bipolar disorder who, I mean, it's not one size fits all.
No,
right?
true. There's different levels and severities.
Yeah, there's people who who function really well on the meds. There's people who have found ways to function well off the meds. I mean, we can only go by the assumption that by some of the exposition we had earlier in the season that she has a routine.
She has a routine,
she knows what she's doing, and maybe maybe her work is keeping her focused. And keeping her, I mean, we can only assume, but and who knows? Maybe something will trigger her and go off the deep end. But what's great is this is very similar to Saul to me. You wonder, you forget that Carrie has been a competent, well-decorated, wonderful CIA agent for a long time. She's not just some crazy broad.
No.
She knows what the F she's doing.
She's good at what she
gets it done.
And she mentioned it earlier in the season, I've ran assets in other countries. I know what to do. I've turned assets. I've done what you've done.
And she has.
And so you get to see that with her interactions with Brody. It was almost like when she went in with Brody, she went to work. I mean, she loves him and everything else, but she went to work.
She did. But did you notice, speaking of the acting, in that scene where she was like, drink this, but not too fast, you're going to get sick. That scene, I watched her, speaking of nuances and things, I watched an eyebrow twitch or part of her face move. This was her. That was so complex, that acting, the choices she was making, because she wasn't choosing to do the obvious and expose this love for him. She was choosing to hide, to cover, which is always an interesting acting choice for me, because it's so much more real, and she is so talented that I love that layer that she was that. Her just being let's get straight to the point. Let's talk about Dana, things like that, where she's carrying his child, and watching that eyebrow twitch, because it's that her heart inside of her saying, I want to tell you, I want to reach out, I want to hug you, I want to tell you I love you, I want to tell you I'm pregnant, I want to tell you all these things. But watching those little nuances happen in her that shit is so
it was a fantastic performance. Her
affection is so subtle that it's so engaging to watch.
This is 2 Emmys for this?
Oh, God.
She's on a bullet train.
I've loved her ever since My So-Called Life.
Jordan Catalano.
Can we talk about Jordan Catalano and the boiler room makeout?
I don't care about Jordan Catalano.
I know you don't, but I really
I mean, I have a question for you. Okay, just for a second, really quick. Jordan Catalano or Peter Quinn?
Jordan Catalano.
I can't Peter Quinn. I gotta do it.
Good.
We won't fight.
It goes back.
You can have Jordan. I'll take Peter.
Here's what I take.
I knew we were
The
meant
next
to be
topic.
friends.
Because,
I'm just saying, hey, but we have spent time during the Americans talking about the Russian hottie that gives the blowjobs.
Yeah.
We give you your time.
Nina, don't.
Okay, fine. Let's ask you a question.
Yeah.
Carrie or Marina or Jessica?
What's her name?
I feel like I know who you're gonna pick.
Yeah. What's her name? Jessica.
Duh.
Like, yeah.
The wife. Yeah.
Okay,
I don't watch that show.
No.
This show.
This show.
Oh, on this show.
Jessica.
I thought you were talking about Americans now.
No. Yeah, sorry. Because Carrie Russell is on the American side.
Yeah.
And Carrie Russell wins everything.
Carrie on Homeland or Jessica the wife.
Oh.
I said Jessica. He was
But what? I mean, yes, I like girls, but listen.
Okay.
I'm just saying. I've loved Claire Danes since My So-Called Life.
Yes.
She's an amazing actress. I love watching her. That scene was great. I like how they opened up with her seeing him and him rolling over and then rolling back over, and she lost it. Mm-hmm. She just lost it, and you're going, is she going to be able to do this? And then the next time you see her, she's in there, she's going to work, you see the little affections in her face, the little nuances, and you're going, oh my God, this is so hard for her, but and then, why, stop. Why was she smoking? Is she trying to ruin the pregnancy?
No. This pregnancy is really fascinating to me.
She's boozed up. She's smoking. She's on the drugs.
She seems so torn, and she's admitting to a lot of these things. The thing is, I keep on forgetting that she's pregnant, and I feel like she keeps on forgetting that she's pregnant. You know,
she's in denial.
It's so secondary to her.
Well, how about that doctor?
And her life.
How about the doctor?
Oh, the doctor, when he's like, just in case you're wondering, the baby's fine. It's like, who's on that?
Yes,
it's just, I feel like it's secondary to her, and especially before Brody came back into her life, and now here he is, and now she's being affected by that, and now I feel like maybe the pregnancy is something she's going to be.
Dude, I just wrote down a prediction. Sorry, I had
okay. I'm going to ask it before you, and just maybe is that baby going to make it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I don't know. I'm not ready to say that yet.
Okay.
But I'm ready to say that I have a prediction about the baby, and it's really effing good.
Okay, we'll wait for that. But I will say one last thing about Carrie is that, again, to second what you've been saying, performance is fantastic. It does that great thing where we know, as the audience know, that A, she's pregnant, and B, she's in love with Brody, but we also know that she has to sort of work the asset, and it's all on her face, and it was a brilliant performance.
So good.
And I really hope it doesn't go unnoticed, because she's got a lot of shit for great acting from seasons 1 and 2. Then maybe maybe the writers and producers are leaning on her little crazy bit too much in the first part of the season. Yeah. But she's acting her ass off, and that was all phenomenal. And also that's for Claire Danes, and for Carrie, she did the job. She actually did everything she had to do to bring this asset to so whether it's Dana, that's kind of she knew what she had to do. And you thought that she would go, but she could have went with I love you, I'm pregnant, you have to do it for me, blah blah blah. She didn't go with that.
No, she went with that Dana first. Because I think that there were moments in this episode again where it was a choice and a look she made, or one little tiny facial movement where it looked like she wanted to tell him, but she's waiting for the right moment.
It's like she's constantly pulled between making, when it comes to Brody, emotional choices that will serve her emotional purpose, or choices to serve whatever the mission is. And that was a big choice, was to choose Dana over her own baby.
That is very true, and I think that's the whole thing with Carrie, and what makes her so interesting, and what makes her a good agent, and a risky agent at the same time, because she will. She compartmentalizes those two things for sure. One, that you see her in those moments where she's just going for her, she wants it, and she just does something crazy, and you're like, oh God, what are you doing? And then you see her in those moments where she's putting herself on the line to get, running through the warehouse, and Abu Nazir's chasing her, and she just taking one for the team. She doesn't care.
Geniusly manipulative, especially when it comes to him, and you can see that it pains her sometimes to put him through these things.
Oh, it's killing her
for the greater good.
Well, this is the thing, that she's a solid agent. And then last thing I'll say, I keep saying the last thing I'll say, but this is really the last thing I'll say on this.
This is really
famous last words. Famous last words.
No, but we talk about during the Americans all the time. I talk about how much I love these real true spy thrillers. We're talking about the real. This is what spying really is. I mean, we know spying as James Bond bumping around, sleeping with some rods, shooting the gun, some gadgets. No, this is actually what the CIA and the KGB and in the Americans' case. This is shit they really do, and this is really super compelling as drama to watch them not just pull off masks and and have gadgets. This is really about them like working assets and working undercover and doing the shit that they do.
And same as with the Americans. Now look, we're comparing the Americans, but it's not good unless we know that their lives and emotionality are entangled in this somehow.
Yeah, that's why it makes fantastic drama.
What better way to entangle these two lives than to have her be in love with him, with Carrie be in love with Brody. Oh.
And pregnant with his baby.
And that's just my baby daddy. That's just my... Why did they not play that song during the episode?
It would have fit seamlessly, guys.
By the way, speaking of songs that played throughout the episode, and we're going to start talking about Brody because he was a huge player in this episode. How much did you love the training montage, Joe?
Oh. Well, listen.
That was not very typical of Homeland, but
I'm a goddamn sucker for a good training montage.
We thought they were going to start playing. Julia and I were like, are they going to play Eye of the Tiger? He was like, dun, dun, and it's like fatigue, running.
When he went to like I'm ready, and they cut to like the special ops guys and Brody jogging, I was like,
I like those boys
too. The music cue hit, I was like, oh my god!
I know. Hey, it pumped me up.
Best training montage ever.
It pumped me up.
It always makes me want to work out. It always makes me want to go do whatever the end game is. The training montage. I should make a tape and watch like
make a montage of training montages.
I would be
a training montage
because that's what I need.
Dude.
Is that what you need?
Because I watched that episode, I was like, I'm going to go be a CIA agent. And go work out and just be fucking hot and do my thing.
I could shoot a gun like that. What are you talking about?
Yeah, and then then the episode was over and I was already over it.
Yeah, but then see, somehow I start imagining.
To be able to sustain it.
Somehow I start imagining those things. Like, I could be like Carrie, and I could like round the corner and like pull back the curtain and, ooh, Peter Quinn's there in a towel. And then I get distracted.
I get it.
And then I get distracted.
And then you're done. Then you're out.
The question I have for
you'd be the worst agent ever.
I know.
How do you feel about Peter Quinn?
Interesting question.
I think he's like,
Curious.
Fascinating.
I don't. When this is, I'm a guest on the show.
Sorry.
Like, I'm beginning the idea that you like Peter Quinn.
He is a hot piece of ass. Okay.
HPOA.
And I love him so much. And there wasn't enough of him this episode. And we still want to... Where was Farah in this episode?
She was far away.
She was far away.
Oh, no.
Wah, wah. Okay, so...
Thank you. Thank you, Marissa Serafini.
Speaking of far away and now back on Homeland turf, Brody is back. We've been waiting for this day.
Brody's back.
Brody's back.
Brody killed it this episode.
He had a little bit of a stint with the heroin.
Look, remind me to never ever
do heroin. Yeah, no, don't ever.
Number
do that.
one, yes.
Remind me to never have to detox on heroin.
Yeah, not so fun.
And remind me to never do heroin.
Okay, I got you back.
Right.
I'll remind you.
Because I keep hearing about this heroin.
Joe.
People say...
Joe.
Yes.
Don't ever do heroin.
I will not. People say it's the best thing in the world. The best thing in the world.
Say that?
Yeah.
People say the people who do like heroin's
people
the
who
best.
Are doing heroin.
No, for the first time. No. Let me clarify.
Wait.
What people are saying.
The high from heroin. The high from heroin is supposed to be like euphoric.
Yes, and orgasmic and euphoric.
Which is why it is highly, highly addictive. Not only mentally but physically in your body. Like you cannot. The detox from heroin is supposed to be absolutely.
You can never recreate that first time you did it, and so you try
to spend the rest of your life
chasing it. Meanwhile, it's also physically addicting and it destroys your body, and you die.
I saw train spotting.
It's terrible.
Well,
and Brody, you can't kick it.
Brody, by the way, is like superhuman because somehow he I wanted to ask you guys about Brody. I mean, I know he's done some crazy shit. He, some bad things have gone down, but do you or did you at any point feel sorry for him this episode?
Yes.
Yeah, I feel bad for him.
For sure.
I mean, like at the end of the day, Brody is still the main protagonist of this episode, and even of this series, rather. And so, at this stage of the game, knowing that he didn't do the bombing, knowing that he, has kind of turned a little bit. I mean, I feel like I don't know if we're supposed to feel sorry for him, but I do. I feel for him.
You have to think about the fact that when Saul walked in on him, like just in that room, obviously hadn't moved from that spot in days. On heroin, just out of it, hadn't eaten, nothing. You have to think like, dude, how many times does this human being have to go through this in his life?
Yeah.
I mean, he wanted to die.
Yeah, he absolutely wanted to die, or wanted to just, this is kind of the thing about why he stayed here in the first place, because when we last saw him, he was really staying healthy to try to get out. He was really trying to get out, and after that, the imam and his wife got killed. You can see him like just completely giving up. Like,
well,
you know what?
I think the thing that allows you also to sort of not just disregard him and stay on his side for whatever reason, even if it's just for a little bit, is that the only thing that's keeping this guy alive is it's always a good, even if he does shitty things in the process, his ultimate end game is always for the love of like a child, whether it's his own or whether it was Isa or so it's like you almost can't fault him really, because you're like, he's doing it for like something genuine and something beautiful almost, but yeah, he gets lost along the way, and question here is, can you blame him? I mean, you're stuck in a foreign country. People are trying to turn you. They're torturing you. It's been eight years he was gone for.
But he was
at
turned.
some point
he was turned.
But at some point you got to go, do I just do this to live? I mean, what do you, it's like, you can't blame the guy. But then, of course, the suicide vest and all that stuff that Carrie brought up this episode is like, that's the stuff where you go, okay, hold on. That's what makes you go, I don't know if I really trust you. But deep down inside that, like I said, the end game, the one thing that he's like fighting for, it's the love of his child, which is why I think this pregnancy will come into play.
Well, those are unimaginable circumstances, first of all. I mean, to be kidnapped and tortured and blah, blah, blah. I mean, God, I would, don't wish that on anyone. He was turned, which he was bad, but we saw in season 2 where he was returned and sort of redeemed himself all the way through. And listen, we got to root for him, but, I can't help but think about, sticking with the characters, Saul, the way Saul was very much like, whatever we got to do. And the doctor, the spec ops guy was like, dude, even the spec ops guy, the special ops guy who was the doctor was looking like, dude, this is like cruel and unusual. This may kill him. Saul's like, do it. Well,
so this is, for one time in the entire 3 seasons, that was a moment where I was like, man, Saul, I hate saying this because I love him so much, but I was like, is he a little fucked up with that?
Well, this is the CIA.
My French. But I mean, I feel like because they keep hitting that point with Carrie, the lawyers brought that to her attention, and Lockhart brought that to her attention. He's like, these people will do anything.
Well, this is like not.
This is part of the job. I get it.
Yeah,
this is the world we're living in here. This is the world of Homeland.
Chosen.
I know.
Like again, what I said before, you don't get to be Saul Berenson by being like. I know. This is why you got to see him like, oh, this is why Saul is Saul, because he's the guy who can go in and say, do it.
I know.
And guess what? It worked. And, he's also the same guy who can take Carrie and put her in that position. And Carrie could have spun out. She could have gone crazy. She could have killed herself. Saul had to just let it play out and just know that she's strong enough. Brody, same thing. Spun out, killed himself. He's got to let this play out. He let my man go in there and kill his wife and his, he didn't let that happen. But the risk he took, there's a lot.
You have to take risks.
There's high stakes here for the greater good, and this is kind of why you want these things. But Brody, back to Brody, because he's the main
Brody.
guy.
What do you?
Brody. When Saul was talking to him and he says, I won't think of you as a victim here, and it made me step back for a minute, and I automatically I started thinking of all the bad things that he's done since we've known Brody. But if you take it back to the very beginning, since before we knew Brody, I mean, he went into this as a Marine. He went into this to fight for his country, and he believed in that wholeheartedly. I feel like he's the ultimate pawn in essence. So then he's captured.
That's what I'm
and
saying.
then
Can you
he's
blame
brainwashed
him?
after
Yeah.
all these years, and he fights it. And how long can you fight it? So then, he comes back and he does these
That's what I'm
atrocious
saying.
things.
Yeah.
But then they bring him back. You know, they make him kind of see the light in essence.
Yeah.
And he's on the right path, and he's kind of on the straight and narrow and getting his life back together. And
Right.
then this whole bombing happens, and they ship him off to Venezuela.
And of course
and
he
fights
looks
it, fights it,
guilty,
fights
yeah.
it, fights it, fights it. But this guy, you can't help but to lose all hope completely.
I think that
and you know what? Give me the heroin at that
but I
point.
think-
That's what I'm saying.
I know. Well, I agree, but I think for the character Brody, this just speaks to, now to have the 3 seasons of all this stuff, it speaks to the kind of guy this is, and this is why Saul was like, he's not going to die. This guy's been through so much shit.
That's why he's like, dude, there's no.
And he's our guy. Like, this guy's the guy to do this. I know this because no one can go where he's been.
I agree.
And that was cool. Saul was very, like, no bullshit with him. Like, you know what? I know what you did. Like, you didn't do the bombing. You're in. He's like, I'm innocent. Like, not so fast. You're not innocent, dude. You had a suicide vest on. You know.
That's what Carrie. When I liked when she pulled that out. So it was like, there's so many other things that you've done. But for sure, I think that. Yeah, Saul's the type of guy to come in there and pull that card and be like, let's do it. Like, but he also in the whole the aspect of the fact that we're talking about, dude, this poor guy's been through so much. It's also the same thing that lets them know that he's the guy for this. I mean, there's nobody else who could survive.
Yeah,
sure.
You know, totally agree. It was. So I think Brody, and I love the idea of. God, man, what a great thing they did here by not this Homeland. You know, Brody's on the poster. It's Brody's show. To have him not in almost the entire series.
I know.
Have him show up in episode 9
and kill
for
it.
presumably the last 4 episodes.
Right.
And kill it. It's a gigantic risk, but you know what? Brody killed it, and to make turn Brody from all these the one character we know as this sort of tortured turn guy who's going to be the domestic Brody with the mom and Dana and the suicide vest to like trained special ops killer again. That's kind of cool.
Kind of badass.
Cool to see, like, we're going to make you the Marine that you were before. I love that whole thing. But I do want to talk about Damian Lewis. Like, what about that guy?
Dude.
How about that guy?
Dude, his detox scenes were so
Tom Walker was intense.
Yeah, Tom Walker. Shout out to Chris Chalk, who plays Tom Walker.
I like that they brought that back because that was like the moment, I think, where you knew when you found out that he killed Tom Walker, you're like, snap, he's a freaking terrorist.
Yeah.
Like, and that to have that happen, that like moment to have to relive, it's just like a snippet into letting you know what torture he was going through. And that is something that lives in his mind as like a regret or something that he's horrified about or haunted by or whatever, if you will.
I thought that was a really good device, a storytelling device for the whole to make him use the hallucinogenic. It reminded the audience that this guy is not a great guy. Oh, remember Tom Walker? Remember that guy?
Yeah,
he
remember
killed
Tom
him.
Walker? It was
That's
like
his
his
boy.
best
But they
friend.
also used it with the stabbing.
Exactly. They also used it to say but when he was with Abu Nazir, he tried to kill himself too. Yeah.
Remember who started all this?
Exactly.
Abu Nazir.
But it's almost like he didn't just go. It just reminded like, what he went through with Abu Nazir. It gave you a window into that whatever that hell must have been, which is like I'd rather die than turn for you, Abu Nazir.
We need to know. We need to be reminded that he's going through this like round 2.
Right.
You know.
I mean, this is also. I mean, like, look. I mean, this is a lot. I mean, Brody is. He may snap at some point.
That's what I'm saying. I think that this is the thing. It's like you have to have the Dana thing or the Isa thing dangling in the corner because there's no way this guy can get through this without that like light at the end of the tunnel.
Something to fight for.
And that's why I think. Baby. Well, I think we can. Okay, let's wrap up about Brody so we can get into predictions.
Just let me give you. But Damian Lewis, amazing performance.
Of course,
we haven't seen him. Like I said, he killed it. The detox scene was incredible. All that stuff.
Brody came back with a vengeance.
But like from anger to like desperation to crying to anger. And all that stuff to like defeated to him seeing Carrie to him.
Once he came out of that, to interject for a second so we can kind of get to the last scene where we see him once he came out of this detox and he's trained and now he's not 100% but he's like 75% there, maybe 80. What did you think about the moment after he seemed so indifferent to Carrie, so indifferent to her. I'm like, he doesn't even give a shit about her. Like, he doesn't care. And then to have him say, I am coming back from this mission because of Dana, and she's not the only reason. And he looked at Carrie. Mm-hmm. What did you guys think about that?
That was, I think he loves her. I think that what he reminded him.
I like that they gave us that because I felt like there was no connection there.
Yeah,
I like that they gave us that.
I think the reason why that happened is obviously I think he realized that like this woman took me to see my daughter. She didn't have to do that. She broke rules as she always does. She took me to see my daughter and probably risked her job and everything else like she always does. But then once that happened, even though it didn't go exactly as planned for him, he got in the car and realized that okay, that was fucked up with my daughter. But I've got something to fight for, and you know what? Carrie took me here, and oh yeah, I love her. That's kind of what happened. Mm-hmm. I think.
I liked that. I like that they did that. I like that they had that moment before he got on the plane with Saul looming in the background.
Right.
I liked that they ended it that way because they're just giving you a little bit of incentive to hold on to. Like that relationship is not dead. She has the baby. He and her seem like there's a little bit of connection. He's fighting for Dana. Like you know that this mission that he's going on is like a huge, like there's a big chance he's not going to come out of it alive. But because of all these things, it gives you hope. It makes you want to keep watching.
I think the Dana thing sort of reminded him of what they've been through together when she just was spewing this hatred towards him, and then she also spewed some hatred towards Carrie, and he turned around and saw her there. I think it was this moment of like, oh my God, we've been through so much together, like this, our story together and what we do for each other. Yep. It sort of snapped it back together.
Morgan Taylor,
that girl.
She did a great job.
Well,
great episode.
Everybody did a great job. The acting is always superb. In this episode, they brought it to another level.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Brody was back. I'm glad we got to see a little bit of the connection between he and Carrie. And
missed that.
Can I ask you one question before we go to predictions?
If I like Peter Quinn, if I think he's hot?
No,
yes,
not that one. Yes. One question is like we talked about Senator Lockhart and that scene, which was fantastic. Like him sort of like looks at her and he's pissed. He was very pissed, but he called back. Do you think Saul is really that's it? That really is it for Saul? Do you think that he's no way, right?
No. I really don't.
You don't, right? I mean, I'm not jumping to predictions, but I want to. So anyway, just
okay. Well, let's talk about that. Okay, let's move into predictions because we can't hold ourselves back.
Go.
And now your AfterBuzz TV prediction.
My prediction has to do with Saul too, but what were you going with that?
Well, I know. I've got so many predictions, but on that, I just really think that like on the Lockhart thing that we have not seen the last of. I think Saul is not necessarily angling for that job, and I think Saul is real, but there's no way he's going to be left the hook.
I think
no way.
Lockhart is not going away. I think that Saul is maybe okay with not taking the head position because he also was really starting to care about his wife and making that work out too. But I think that Lockhart, when the time comes for him to either save Saul or screw him over, he's going to screw him over.
Right. And here's the other thing. Like, we love, I keep forgetting his name, but F. Murray Abraham.
Oh,
Adal, who's been this sort of shady figure, and now he's back with Saul.
Yeah.
But what about that scene when he was with Lockhart? Like,
oh, no, that's
he lied to Saul. And then also,
I don't trust him.
And also that bit where he's like, how did Carrie know that he was where they were?
Because he told him.
And so anyway,
Adal has always
like
played both sides.
He's playing both sides, which is again the essence of the CIA, him being a spy, which is fine. But I really believe that this whole thing with Lockhart and Adal and Saul is not finished.
It's not. It's a weird triangle for sure.
Yeah.
And Adal is playing both sides.
Yep.
What are your predictions, Julia?
I think I am notoriously awful at predictions.
Oh, really?
You know this, first and foremost. I panic under the pressure. I think, though, that Carrie is going to use this baby as the ultimate manipulation over Brody, and I think she's going to use the threat, after she tells him, use the threat of termination of the baby to get him to do whatever their bidding is.
Right.
I am going to kind of jump on that, but my prediction is Saul knows about this baby. Or he's going to find out somehow, and in the moment, in a snap moment, he's going to either make Carrie tell him, like we saw that something was going down in the op. He's either gonna make her tell him, or he's gonna spit it out.
Carrie, tell him about the baby.
And she is gonna be like, no, Brody. Yeah, I think so. That and I also think Dana, the whole thing with the name change. I'm still stuck on that one scene where her mother said she went to go change her name and they were signing the papers, and Jessica said, how long does it take to come into effect?
Right.
And he said like 3 to 6 weeks. I think there's a reason why he said that, and I think her name isn't legally changed yet, and something's going to go down there.
Oh, that's good.
So that's my
Maybe she'll rescind
prediction.
it.
I don't know. I think she might. Great show. Great having you guys
Thanks
here.
for having
Thanks.
us. Oh my God, kind of a dream come true.
I know,
Yeah.
right? Well,
The
hey,
Homeland
we've got a
show.
couple more episodes left, so you never know if we might need you. But where can we find you?
Find me on Twitter, Julia Carley, which is my name, JuliaCarley. Also on Instagram, and you can find me here at AfterBuzz with this guy and a couple others for The Blacklist, and more shows coming up next season too.
That's right. And yeah, you can find me at on Twitter at Joe K. Braswell, on Instagram at Joe Braswell. Also do The Blacklist with Julia and Nando and Joe Sanfilippo. Who cares about him?
Who cares about him?
And January in Homeland. January in Homeland with Lauren and on Grantland and on Extra and a bunch of other places. Oh, and Geek Nerd Tech here as well.
Oh, yes.
Does that
Don't
too.
forget that.
So go ahead.
All right,
Next.
great. And thank you guys also for tuning in and listening and watching and rating on iTunes. Tell a friend, keep the convo going. 5 stars all around. I am Lauren Leonelli. You can find me at Lauren Leonelli on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, Vine, and my website, waiting for you to laugh at all those. All right, guys, we will see you next week. This season's almost over. We're so sad to say goodbye, but it's getting so good. Yay, Homeland. See you next week.
Homeland.
Bye.
Producers Maria Menounos, Kevin Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and the entire AfterBuzz TV staff. We would like to thank you for listening to the AfterBuzz TV network. To watch or listen to other after shows and post comments or questions, be sure to visit AfterBuzzTV.com. I'm Sir Richard Wentworth, and this has been a presentation of AfterBuzz TV.
Buzz
See you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.